We go, Now when you think about being here on the Nile, these rejuvenating waters, grounding ourselves into this land. This ancient land. We've gone to many places now. We just went to the Esna temple, Dendera, the Assyrian. We're walking the path with the Kundalini life force. It's causing things to be triggered within us. That's a part of the process. Check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. Notice the subtleties. You have subconscious memories of your past lives that are now coming up. It's causing you and all of us to feel strange and awkward as we start to remember our multidimensional self and multidimensional lives. This is normal. These things that are being picked up within us are there to be brought to our awareness. It's all part of remembering who we are. These unresolved traumas, unresolved difficulties, and slights, and everything else that have been in past lives are now coming forward. Let us recognize that we do not see the world as it is, but rather as we are. It is a magnification of our feeling state. However we feel internally is what is magnified around us. Take a moment, taking a deep breath, acknowledge this. Be so in love and acceptance. 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Let's set our intention for this meeting. Imagine that you have a love bubble around your heart as you ground in this attention for what you would like to learn and bring into your cognition and bring into your cellular network. We feel the energy, the base of our spines. Feel the energy in our hands. The new healing powers that are being activated within us. The 36 senses, bringing us a total of 30 new senses in the subtle realms. It requires us to be able to tap in more deeply into ourselves to feel those differences, for we are here to feel. The world is desiring more feeling and less thinking. Bring us into our hearts. Now imagine that bubble of love around your heart, that bubble of surrender, that bubble of acceptance, expanding to your auric field, to a zone that is about 6 feet all around you. Imagine the colors that you are in your aura, the beautiful colors of the rainbow, as you're activating now and reshifting and rebalancing your energetic body. It's expanding so rapidly. Take a moment to acknowledge where you've been and how far you've come on your journey. Congratulations. You've made it a long way, over many lifetimes. Realize that all the things that you came here for will be fulfilled. There is no missing out. are no mistakes. Everything is exactly as it should be. The triggers you're experiencing are all for your ultimate expansion of awareness and consciousness. Realize that you live in a world with abundance. You live in a world of love. This place is either a heaven or a hell. It is our thinking that makes it so. We choose one or the other with every action, with every intention that is grounded in with every breath, with inhalation and exhalation. Now expand that love bubble of your heart. Push it out all the way to encompass the whole land of Kemp. From Bir to Will in the south, the deep well, the original place of the Garden of Eden, all the way to Lower Egypt, where the Nile tributaries empty into the Mediterranean Sea. Where the lotus flower is extending its petals beyond the head of this great land. We are here for a crown chakra activation. Realize this is why yesterday we saw baby falcons at the hot air balloon rotation. The baby falcons represented our opening and our baby third eye, the first stage of the crown chakra activation. These birds had clipped wings and tethers attached to their talons, just as we are not yet ready to fully fly in our third eye. All the representations in the world around us are reflections of what's going on inside of us. Take note of those subtle differences and changes. Realize that every trigger is an opportunity for expansion and growth. Now extend this love bubble to encompass the whole of Africa. Send this love to all the people that are in this entire continent, this ancient of days, the place where mankind began this great hero's journey, the place where time began. Feel the hearts and souls of all within this African continent. Let's ground this in. Send our love with our deep and strong voices. Now let's expand that love bubble to encompass the entire earth. Put a canopy around the entire earth of our own magnetic fields. Sending love to everyone, all sentient beings, and especially to Gaia herself. Let's give thanks to Gaia for the abundance that she gives us, for the food that we have, for this virtual paradise that we're living in. What a beautiful earth we have. Send love to the leaders of nations. Let them soften their hearts and be awakened. Let them lead us in the right ways towards a sovereign humanity, a world that no longer requires government, a world that no longer requires representation of the individual, a world where we celebrate our individuation and where it is celebrated, where our love of learning and free speech is celebrated, a place where our children can grow and impact the world and fully self-actualize and self-transcend, a place of continual expansion. A place of charity, a place of compassion, a place where we recognize all suffering is as a result of judgment, and yet all suffering is the source of our enlightenment. Every experience can be transmuted into the gold of alchemy and the philosopher's stone. Imagine in your third eye a shining diamond. That diamond is connected to your heart through a string. That is expanded through your intention to encompass all of the earth. Let us ground this in this intention for this meeting. Slowly open your eyes. I love you. This is my longtime friend who's known me well before my awakening. And his name is Phil Anthony. Phil is the world's expert on juries and jury consulting and mock juries and everything. Every major case you could imagine, going all the way back to O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony. I mean, you could list off every single major case that's been done. He has been the expert that's been called upon by all of the, basically, states, I guess, prosecution to analyze what's going to happen with juries, because a lot of money is spent in trials, and so they need to know how a jury is going to see something. It's like, it's all good and fun, but when you have something all of a sudden that comes up like, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. And somehow that line becomes like a great motto, and it resonates with jurors. This is the guy that has to know that before it's going to happen, as best as possible. So, but that's not why I had him come here and speak. The reason I had him come here and speak is because he's a very grounded person who went through a death experience. And I remember it was about 2016 or 17 that you shared it with me. We sat in Mastro's that day. And I was profoundly impacted by it, because that was when I was going through my spiritual awakening. And I thought, gosh, this story's really got to be told. So I decided to invite him here to tell his story of what's on the other side. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning, everyone. How's the microphone? Okay or bad? Great. All right. Thank you for all of you taking your time to be here today to listen to me, just little old me, so thank you. I appreciate greatly. I feel compelled to start by saying a big thank you to Robert and Eden and Andrea and Jason and probably a whole bunch of other people who I'm leaving out unintentionally. I think these are just the most amazing adventures and journeys together. And that's what I've always liked most about these trips, is being together with the community, with the people. That's what's always been greatest for me. But at the risk of embarrassing my friend, I would say Robert doesn't have to be here. Robert could do pretty much anything he wants to do in the world. And he chooses to be here and to be with all of you. It's intentional act on his part, and we all benefit from it, especially me. Thank you, Robert. Okay, so I'm here to share with all of you my near-death experience, commonly known as an NDE. Could I see by a show of hands who here has had an NDE experience? 1, sorta. 2, that's 2.5. 3. Okay, there's another silent one. 4. More? That's a lot of NDEs for one boat. Yeah. Well, I think NDE is like every other term to which they give a 3-initial acronym, like UFOs and UAPs and NDEs. They do so, whomever they are, because they don't know what it really is. So they come up with some kind of term to describe it. So I prefer, for my purpose today with all of you, to call it my journey. And what I'm going to do today, with your permission and agreement, I'm going to share my journey with you. I'm going to share it with you in 3 acts of my play within the play of life. And I determined that's the best way to share it so that it makes sense. And when I'm done sharing, we're going to hopefully have a group discussion. And anyone's free to comment on anything they wish to comment upon. I've come to realize probably I'm not here for you, you're here for me. So I feel blessed to be on this boat with all of you, and I know each and every one of you are going to help me in your own way. And hopefully at some level I help you, but maybe yes, maybe no, because this is a fairly enlightened group of people. So I feel like when I'm done you're going to say, oh, isn't that cute, Phil's in kindergarten and he gave us a little story, and kind of move on. But hopefully it'll be more than that for all of you. So, okay, so a couple of items I'd just like to mention before I start. The first one is, well, I've kind of already said the first one, which is I don't claim any expertise. This is simply my experience. And I'm confident I had the experience. The experience was real. And so I'm just here to share it with you. A second point is I'm not in the habit of sharing my experience with people. I have my closer group of friends, which I'd say is maybe 20 or 30 people. I've shared it with most of them. I've shared it with my family. I've shared it with my physicians, my surgeons. And I found I get a dichotomous reaction. Half the group, I tell the story and they say, oh, that's neat, Phil. Hey, what are you going to order for lunch? And the other half says, oh, wow, you died. Let me tell you what happened to you. So I get some very interesting encounters. But the larger point is, I'm not in the habit, nor is it my intention to share this story. I'm just sharing it with all of you at the invitation of Robert, which I appreciate greatly. The third point I'd just like to make is, and I hope I live up to this, I'm very cognizant of not wanting this to sound like I'm in any way boasting or putting some message out there, because I'm hoping to not be boasting, and I don't feel like it's my job to put a message out there. I'm only here to tell the story. And you're going to hear some things from me that might sound religious in nature, but that's not my intention either, because I recognize everyone in here has different kinds of beliefs. And ironically, when I refer to things of a religious nature, those weren't my intentions in the moment either. I'm not really a, quote, religious person. So the things that happened to me just happened on their own. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because I don't want to offend anyone if I say some things that are different than your own philosophies in the world. So that's kind of the background, and let's get going. And again, we'll save time for questions at the end, if you'd like questions. I decided to make a PowerPoint of some slides. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. I guess you're going to tell me when it's over. At one level, I feel like maybe the slides take away from the story. But at a different level, I felt like I wanted you to, in kind of a superficial way at least, have a chance to experience what I experienced, what it is that I sort of saw and went through. So maybe they work, maybe they don't. If you're in a spot in the room where you can't see the screen and you wish to, I invite you to just come on up and plop on the floor or whatever works for you. I can't manipulate the screen, and we're, for better or worse, not in a sports bar, so there's only one screen up here. Okay, so here's the first act, Act 1 of my play. And so I'm going to begin with something very simple, which is a picture of my immediate family. So this is my family, and this is where we live in Laguna Beach. That's about 120 steps from our home where we're standing. And so we have, this is my wife here, right here. And those are all my children, 6 children. And they range today in age from about 40 to about 20. Now this particular picture is a picture from the time period in which I went through my NDE, my journey. And so I'm going to be focusing, I wanted to share the picture for a specific reason, which is that a big portion of my story revolves around 2 of the children. So the first one is this young woman here. Her name's Megan. And today she's taller than me, which isn't hard to achieve. But she's taller than me, and she's 20. She's a sophomore in college. And then the other one is Ryan here. Ryan is, if you can see the screen, you can see he's about my height, except today he's 6'3". And to give you a reference point, this son over here is about 6 feet. So that's my family. And in particular, as I just said, my experience focuses on these 2, Ryan and Megan. And this is a picture I found of them at the age at which I went through my experience, which also becomes relevant. Ryan obviously on the left, Megan on the right. And this is a picture of them today, or close to today. A little side point that I'll bring up again later is Ryan in this picture is in the beginning, you may not be able to see it from wherever you are, he's in the beginning of stages of growing a beard, which will become relevant later to my story. So that's the kids. We're not going to go to Act 2 yet, but I'm getting ready for Act 2. So let me tell you about Act 1. Act 1 is my story about my experience in the physical dimension in which we live. So in Act 1, I'm at a bat mitzvah for a dear friend of ours' daughter, and it was a hell of a great party. And part of the party focused on an evening in which we had Tony Robbins' group come in, and we were all going to do the, whatever they call it, the fire walk or whatever it is. So me, just being me, you know, that's a challenge to do the fire walk. But eventually, after about 6 shots of tequila, I decided I'd do the fire walk. And once I did the fire walk, I thought, wow, that wasn't so bad. So they had a guy with a tray of tequilas at the beginning of the fire walk, and every time I did the fire walk, I had another shot of tequila. So I ended up with about 18 shots of tequila in me. And I think, like this fun group, I think we stayed out till 3 a.m. or something like that. And then at about 6 a.m., I apparently wake up, and I've got some synchronicities like we all do in my stories. Here's my first synchronicity. Because there wasn't room, we were in Colorado, we were out in a remote area, and there were cabins, but there weren't enough cabins. So my wife and I, we didn't bring well, actually we did bring some kids to this. Anyway, our family was in a cabin, but there was another family in the cabin too. And that becomes relevant because apparently at 6 a.m., I jump up like a chicken on fire or something, and I'm running around the room and bumping into things and grabbing things. And so the other guy in the room grabs me and wrestles me to the ground. And so I was having a seizure, but it was a fairly robust seizure. So I was very fortunate that the guy was there to rescue me. So they call the collective group calls an ambulance, and I begin to come to a little bit. I'm a little disoriented, and they take me to a hospital. So I remember this part. I'm awake for this. They take me to a hospital, and I remember the technician coming up to me, and he shows me this image that looks like it's a Kodak shot from 1952 or something, and it's got a little thing that looks like the edge of a fingernail on it. And he says, "Oh, you have a brain tumor." And in my stupor, I look at it, and then I hear him say, "Would you like us to take it out?" And in my stupor, I said, "I don't think so." So everybody gets me home. Synchronicity 2, I happen to be the board chair of a university medical center. So the medical center comes to me, fortunately for me, takes me off the airplane. Not in an ambulance, they just take me. They take me to their hospital. I remember seeing them sticking literally the key in the lock to open the MRI room at about midnight. I remember going into the MRI. And then I remember sometime later, my doctor, who's a friend of mine, saying, "You don't just have a brain tumor, you've got a brain tumor the size of a baseball. We are clearing everything off the schedule, your first operation in the morning." That's the last thing I remember. So that's kind of the end of chapter 1. Well, not quite. Let me tell you the rest. So I have a surgery. I have the brain tumor removed. Turns out, in case any of you have this issue, it's not that big a deal because it turns out you don't have any nerve endings in your brain. I guess it's God's way of protecting your brain. So there really isn't that much pain associated with it. It's much worse to get your knee done or your shoulder done or something. So everything's fine. I recover from my removal of my brain tumor. It takes me, I don't know, a month to recover. And then I'm moving on with life. And then I'm at a charity event, not fortunately, or whatever, another synchronicity, not that far from our home. And I'm sitting at the charity event, and the speaker's about to come on. And again, for whatever reason, I get a sense that, gee, if I leave now, I can say goodnight to my children. The children being those little ones. The older ones were probably out having a beer or something, so I didn't have to worry about them, but the young ones. So I decide on the spot, I get up, I go to my car, and I drive home. Again, I'm going to say not intentionally, or not with my knowledge, but I drive home at about 80 miles an hour in zones that are, the fastest zone is maybe 60 miles an hour. So I'm just whipping on home. And then I get home, and I see my children are still up, which is great. So I go into our bedroom, and I go to take off my suit and tie and so forth. And this image, for those of you who can see it, this is the last thing I remember. I'm reaching down to take off my shoes. That's it. That's the last thing I remember in the physical world. The next thing I remember is this. I'm lying in a hospital bed. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, or that's what it feels like. I don't actually know what time it was, but it feels like about 10 a.m. And it is so bright and warm and beautiful. And I have awoken. And I've been in some things in between, which I'll now tell you about briefly. So those two images, so I go from this to this, and the span in between is 22 days. And in the 22 days, I'm in a coma 100% of the time. So I have, no, again, earthly remembrance of what I went through. But I do remember these two things. And so now I'll tell you the story of what happened. This still isn't my story. This is the prelude to my story. But I'll tell you what happened between the 22 days. So, I go to reach for my shoes to take them off. I'm maybe something like this. And I have a seizure. And for those of you who's had a seizure? Anyone else? Leland, how appropriate. Must be a lot of seizures in LA or something, I don't know. Anybody else? Okay. Well, when you have a seizure, it's kind of like unplugging a refrigerator. It's kind of like Star Wars. There's no uh-oh, I'm about to have a seizure. There's just nothing. It's just over. You're out. There's nothing in between. And there's no feeling, at least for me, maybe others, maybe you've had different experience, but there's no feeling in between while you're having the seizure. You're not suffering from the seizure. You're just out. So I had a seizure, and again, you unplug the refrigerator, so the device crashes. So down to the floor I go. I break my nose. I break both of my cheekbones. I'm lying in a big pool of blood, maybe big pool of blood, maybe a quarter of my blood supply or something, because nobody finds me. Because they're just thinking I'm changing or something, or doing whatever other goofy thing I might be doing. So finally, one of my children comes in and apparently, says, "Oh, mom, something's wrong with Dad." So they call an ambulance. Now I'm already in my seizure, and my seizure at the time is a condition known as stasis. And I know we have some medical people here, so probably there's some people familiar with the condition of stasis, which for me meant I was in a continual rolling seizure. So it wasn't that there's a seizure and then I'm done. It was just a repetitive wave motion of seizures. And I had, while I was there at home, I'm told, about 300 seizures. But they don't stop, they just keep going. So the ambulance takes me to a hospital, and I'm at this point, again, I'm not experiencing this, this is just what I'm told after the fact. And at the hospital, apparently I'm kind of on my last legs, and I die. And so the doctors, they bring out the paddles and they're paddling me and they're doing whatever they can. And apparently at some point I come back to life, but I'm not aware of that moment of coming back to life, but apparently I come back to life. So then the doctors at that hospital say to my wife, "Well, he's done. We're just going to kind of watch him overnight, but he's done." And she says, "Oh, no, he's not done." Yay. Yay. So she calls my hospital, where I know all kinds of people, and they come over at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they tell the team at the first hospital, they say, "We're taking him." And the first hospital says, "Oh, no, you're not taking him." And they say, "No, yes, we are taking him." They say, "No, you're not taking him unless you sign right here that you're responsible for everything that happens to him. You have to be on the hook." It's our wonderful medical system at work in the United States. So they sign. They personally sign for me, and they take me to the other hospital. So I'm still having the seizures. So they put me in the ICU, as you would expect, and they hooked me up, I don't know, to who knows what. And then over the next, 21 days, I have 3 surgeries. And surgery, when you have a brain issue, is they basically can't open the top of your head off, and they do whatever they're going to do to your brain, and then they sew you back up. So the first surgery was, they had no idea what was wrong with me, so they just wanted to look around. So they did that, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So then they did a second surgery, and they decided they'd put a substrate plate on my brain with electrodes, and they'd wire all the different nodes of my brain to it, and they'd sew me back up and watch what happens on the chart. So that one, apparently they said, oh, all the electricity is coming from right here. Wonder what that means, they say to themselves. We're not sure. And then someone says, oh, wow, didn't he have a surgery like 8 months ago here? And somebody else says, oh, you're right, he did. And then they say, oh, maybe it's scar tissue. So they say, well, we don't really know exactly, but they decide, we'll schedule a third surgery, we'll go in and take a look. So they go in for the third surgery, and now they go to a spot rather than just looking at the brain. And they find the scar tissue. And so they take a nice big spoon or something, whatever they use, and they scooped out the scar tissue. They nicked a little too much off. I've got 8 points less of IQ than I used to have, as it's measured. I can't do spatial things, like if you give me 4 images, like this square and circle is to this square and circle as this triangle is to this rectangle. I can't do it. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't even know what you're showing me. So I lost that, which I haven't missed it too much so far. So then they sew me back up, and then they say to those who are in the real world, they say, we did what we could. He's got about a 10% chance of living. So prepare yourself, because it doesn't really seem like he's going to make it. And so in that time period, both my kidneys had shut down. Well, first I'm intubated, right, as you would expect. I'm in a coma. My kidneys have shut down. I've lost about 20 pounds. I have a PICC line in me for sustenance. My liver's starting to fail. I left out. I had a heart attack. That was back when I was in the 300 seizures, before they calmed it down. So I had a heart attack, apparently a big one. So that's kind of it. That's my circumstance. And then one day, I wake up, day 22, and there, I'm looking out the window. Okay. So that's my earthbound experience. And now, we're almost done, by the way, just in case anybody's, getting bored or... So, there's my tumor. Doesn't matter that much, but the white is my tumor. The picture actually doesn't do it justice, because it's in a vertical, three-dimensional sense, it's about like a baseball, an American baseball. So, it's actually bigger than what it appears here. But anyway, that's my tumor. And there I am after, I don't know, one of the surgeries, probably surgery 1 or something. So you can see I don't need to dwell on this, but you can see I've got the tube in me. But the important thing is I'm out. I'm in a coma. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm not doing anything. Here's an earlier picture. You can kind of see I'm all black and blue. That's from when my nose broke and my cheeks broke and so forth. So maybe the second picture is the second surgery or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's how I look. So now we're going to turn to Act 3 of the play, which is what happened to me. Because everything I've described so far didn't happen to me. I wasn't there. It's just the story. So Act 3 is what happens to me. So the first thing after I look at my shoes that happens to me is, let me go forward a little bit. Oops, sorry. I misstated it a little bit. Okay, the first thing that happens to me is this. Now, like a lot of things, this is not necessarily the perfect image because it doesn't really capture what I went through. But what I went through is I'm in a space. I'm in a space that feels like an infinite space. And it's not pitch black. It's a little, there's light in a way. There's kind of like a faint light. And but there's nothing to look at. It's just infinity. Everything's devoid of any representation. It's just a space. And the space feels luxurious. The space is warm, inviting. I feel joyous. I feel serenity. I feel happiness. There's absolutely no fear. There's no sound. I'm just in a space. And I see the space. I don't feel the presence of a body, but I see the space. And it feels, no pun intended, divine. And as I sit there, one of the first things that happens to me is I feel specifically time being removed. There's no longer time. There's just being. There's just existence. Time is no longer a dimension for me. And I can feel it is what I'm trying to convey. I obviously don't know, but I'm just telling you what I felt. I could feel that time was gone and that I was simply in this space. And it was just a beautiful thing. Well, the space goes away. And the next thing then I remember is, it didn't actually look like this. My artist wasn't so good. Chelsea taught me that I can do this on an AI platform, but of course, when you're a troglodyte like me, you hire an artist to draw you a picture, which apparently is the ultra stupid thing to do in today's day and age. Anyway, it didn't really look like this, but this is what he managed to draw. It was me lying on a gurney, I think. But I wasn't really cognizant of the fact that I was on a gurney or in a hospital. It was just, I'm lying. And there standing over me is one of the doctors who I know, whose name is Michael. And Michael's got this leg up in the air, and he's moving it back and forth, and he's moving my arms. And he's saying, I hear him say, I can't understand it. He shouldn't be here. He was just here 8 months ago. I don't know why he's here. And he keeps moving my arms and legs. And so then, as I'm listening to him, now again, I'm very calm. I have nothing. I'm just in existence. I have no emotions. I have no emotions at this point. So then, I stand up out of my body because what I'm thinking, if there's any thinking going on, this also is not a very good representation. But anyway, I stand up out of my body because I want to tell him, and I do tell him, or at least I think I'm telling him. I'm saying, I'm shaking him, and I say, Michael, it's okay, I'm fine, everything's good. And he keeps moving. Nothing's happening. So the next thing that happens is, I'm going to call him my handler, because I don't know what else to call him. My handler comes along, and he puts my handler is always, because someone was nice enough to ask me this last night, my handler is always on my left side. And my handler is always either parallel to me or a little behind me. My handler is never in front of me. And my handler is moving me like I'm a pallet of soda or something at Costco, because I don't have any sense. There's no physical sense. I'm just a being, let's say. It's like you're watching a movie. You ever watch, of course you have. You watch a movie and there's some scene where the camera's, taking you down the hallway and, to look in rooms or whatever. It's that kind of sense, right? Like you're watching a movie. There's no body, I'm just there. and he sort of, my sensation is he takes me. Again, kind of like, you're moving a pallet with a forklift or something. He just kind of takes me, and he starts moving me down a hallway, or at least what I perceive to be a hallway. Could be anything. And my hallway kind of looks like this, meaning it's kind of a hallway devoid of any particular characteristics. And it's a little dark like this. It's not quite as dark like as this turned out. And it doesn't look like a nightclub like this, but so there aren't actually these. Anyway, I can see. I can see, but it's it's not perfect sight. I'm just moving along. Like you're a camera on a dolly or something. I'm just moving along. And then I get to the I don't know, call it a portal, I guess, at this point. I get to the thing at the other end, and I go through. My handler's still with me, he's moving me, and I go through to, maybe we call it the other side, but I go through to something. And this is the first time I realize I'm not in Kansas anymore. Up to now it's sort of like, oh, this is interesting. But what I do next is I go into a room that in my mind's eye looks something like this. And the room, now keep in mind, this is almost 10 years ago for me. So I just want to make a footnote comment, which is, at that point, I have not been to the King's Chamber. I haven't gotten anywhere near the King's Chamber. But the room looks like the King's Chamber, except it's a little bit bigger. It's slightly bigger, but it looks like the King's Chamber. And I'm coming in from a doorway that's here. So this would be like the length. How many have not been in the King's Chamber? Oh, okay. All right. So the King's Chamber looks like Costco in a way. You got this big warehouse. And there's a big nice wall, and there's a ceiling that's maybe 20 feet up or something. And then there's it's like a rectangle. So you've got a long wall, and you've got a short wall, and you've got some other things going on too. But that's kind of, at least in my mind's eye, that's kind of what this looked like. And so I'm coming in. When we go into the King's Chamber, you come in from over here. But I came in from over here. And so I'm in the King's Chamber. I'm not walking again. I'm being moved. And so what I see instantly, so it's dark, but yet it's light enough to see, whatever we want to call that. So I'm not in the dark. But again, it kind of feels like the King's Chamber. You're going to see the King's Chamber has some lights in it, so you're kind of in the dark, but you're also in the light. So that's what this is like for me. And against the far wall, which is here, I've got some beings. And there's like a bench, which there is not a bench in the King's Chamber, but there's like not a bench, it's like a wall that you could sit on kind of thing. And on the wall, or on that wall, plus over here, there's a couple of, I'm going to say humanoids over here. But on this wall looks like this. And so on this wall, there's a couple of elephants. There's two in particular. And this elephant's sitting on some kind of throne. There's no throne in the King's Chamber. He's sitting on some kind of throne. It's not an overly elaborate throne, but it's a throne. And the other elephant is just kind of sitting on the bench next to him. So this elephant is larger than this elephant. And what I get as I'm, observing this immediately is these are intelligent beings. They're not elephants. They're something. They're intelligent beings. They have cognition. And then to their right, there's a creature that looks like a beaver. The beaver is also intelligent. And to the left of the beaver, there's a creature that kind of looks like a prairie dog in my mind's eye. And then there's a hooded humanoid, and there's another human not facing me. I never see these two. I never see beyond what you see in this image. They're just there. And then in the forest, so that's what I see. So this is like my representation of me kind of zooming in, right? I'm staying there and I'm kind of focused on these guys now. And then, oops, skip that for a moment. This is going to take too much time to explain, so I don't want to explain it. So, you know, I'm focusing on these elephants, and I failed to say this. Everything that I'm going through is dramatically vibrant. So it's kind of like, for those of you who are old enough, if you go back 20 years in time and you're watching a football game on TV, it just kind of looks like a fuzzy thing with these little things running on the field like ants. And you watch a football game today and you can see the blades of grass and stuff, right? This was like the blades of grass TV of today. Everything was enormously vibrant. The elephants were in colors that I can't even describe, in fairness. They were colors I had never seen before. So I can't really do that justice, except they're almost glowing. They're so bright and beautiful. So those are my elephants. And again, the illustration isn't perfect because they didn't seem like elephants. They seemed like human, some kind of intelligent being is what they seemed like. They seemed very intelligent. So then I look down and there's a boat in a river. This is in the room. And so there's a little river and there's some, you know, reeds or whatever you want to call it. There's some plants growing out of the river. And there's this actually is pretty good representation. There's this little kind of rowboat in the river. So it kind of felt like you were at Trader Vic's or something, having a pina colada. You know, like you got the little river running through the place. And my handler says, "Here, get in the boat." And so I don't get in the boat. He just kind of puts me in the boat. So I'm sitting on the bench, and he's still to my left. And he says to me, "Would you like to go to sleep?" And I say, "Why would I want to go to sleep?" And he says, "Well, he didn't say people, some, I don't know what he said, honestly. He said something, some beings maybe, I don't know what he said. Some of you get bored after a while," is what he said. So I'm processing that. I'm in some mode in which I'm processing what he's saying. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to go to sleep. Now, my handler number 2, so I've got 2 handlers, that's the end of my handler. Handler number 2 comes along, and he's talking to handler number 1. Again, it's still behind me, to my left, and says, "We made a mistake, we're taking him back." So the second handler now, again, without touch, you know, moves me out of the boat, and he's behind me. He doesn't ever get next to me, side or side. He's behind me. And so he now this I remember all of this, of course, but I remember this very distinctly. We move to the other wall, and there's a doorway. There's literally a doorway. It actually looks pretty much like this. And he moves me through the doorway, and then there's a void, but once I'm through the doorway, the next place I am is here. So I'm with my son, Ryan, and Ryan's kneeling on the floor, and I am right in front of him like I am to you. I'm right here. And I am, in my cognition, or whatever I have at that point, I'm trying to tell him, it's okay, I'm dead, but it's okay, don't worry. And I am there for an eternity, what feels like an eternity, trying to say that, and I cannot make it happen. The perception is I can't move my lips. Not that my lips ever did move, but I can't get it out. And I'm sitting there staring at him, and this goes on for, it feels like eons. But I never get there. So all I see is, I see this. He doesn't look at me. That's it. And finally, my handler number 2 extracts me, kind of like, I don't know, scene from The Matrix or something. He kind of like pulls me back. I don't have a choice in it. He doesn't say, "Hey, let's go." He just pulls me back. And we go back to the first room where the elephants are. And the first handler says, what happened? And my handler says, he's too weak, he can't make it. And so I hear that, and then they go to put me in the boat, and I think, oh, no, I don't want to be in the boat. So somehow I get up. I don't know how I get up. Somehow I get up. Now that's out of order. I'll come back to that. Oh, what happened to my thing? Maybe I don't have one. Okay, scratch that. Somehow I get up. I go back to the room. I'm repeating what I just said. I say, oh no, I don't want to be here. I then seem to get up on my own. I move back through those same doors. And my second handler is sort of coming after me saying, no, you can't go. I go through. And the next thing I see is, I see this. This is my Ryan and Megan, but they're no longer 12 and 10 years old. They're like what I showed you in the first photograph. They're very close to what my first photograph was. Again, the illustration doesn't look like the first photograph, but they look like what I just showed you. And they're looking at me, and they're not saying anything, but I have enough awareness to realize this is not now, this is sometime in the future. Or it's sometime, it's not now, because they're grown. And my son has his arm around my daughter, and I can sense they're very close to one another. And that also didn't make sense, because at the point on the earthly plane, they would fight like cats and dogs. They didn't want to have anything to do with each other. You couldn't get them to do anything together. They wouldn't even sit at the table together and eat a meal. So now in this image, they're close. So there's that. And then, now I think, back in my ICU bed. But what's sort of interesting for me that I'll share with you is somehow I don't realize that I'm in a hospital. I just know that I'm in a bed. And I have all kinds of, so I'm in my coma, but I'm not in my coma. So I can see everything that's going on. I can hear people talking to me. Very vibrant. This is one of my friends. He's sitting on the bed. He's got his arm around my arm. He's gripping my arm. He's stroking my head with his hand. He's saying, "It's okay, buddy. Everything's okay." And I'm trying to tell him, I'm saying, "Hey, you're squeezing too hard. This hurts, you know." But nothing happens. So I have a whole bunch of images like this. And there's never a connection for me. There's never a connection that, oh, I'm in a hospital. It's more like I'm a third party just observing this. But it's from my eyes. It's not this, again, bad image from my clever artist here. It's not this perspective. The perspective is from my eyes. I'm lying in bed and I'm looking up at the person who's gripping my arm. So I have maybe 50 things like this happen. I've got all kinds of people saying things to me and coming over to hug me or whisper in my ear or whatever it is that they're doing. I'm going to skip all of those, but there's at least 50. It's all enormously vibrant. And then we come to what I'd say is kind of a watershed event in my existence, which is I have this couple who I know very well. They're visiting me, and I can tell you what they're wearing, and they're standing over the bed, and they're religiously inclined people. So they're standing there, and the wife is holding my hand, and the man is telling my wife, he's saying, "I hope it's okay with you, but we brought with us our bottle of holy water that we got at Lourdes, and if you're okay, we'd like to anoint him." I don't think they said anoint. We'd like to sprinkle him or something. So I'm lying there, and I'm thinking, okay, that's good. And so then, they're putting the water on me, and then everyone holds hands, and the man said, "Let's say the Lord's Prayer." And so then Now, here's another footnote. I don't even know the Lord's Prayer. But in that moment, I do know the Lord's Prayer. I'm able to recite the Lord's Prayer in that moment. And I think I'm reciting it with them. I think I'm part of the conversation. But I'm not. I'm in a coma. But I think I'm there. And, I can't even recite it today. I mean, you might say, why can't you recite it today? Well, I don't know. I can't. So, the Lord's Prayer reads, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. That comes from Matthew 6:9, and it also comes from Luke 11:2. But again, the important moment for me in this journey is I somehow have the ability to say the Lord's Prayer without a piece of paper in front of me. So I say the Lord's Prayer, and then I only have one other image, which is this same person is walking with me. I think I must be going to my final surgery, is what I surmise. He's walking next to the gurney, and he's again holding my hand, and he's saying, oh boy, we're going to have a lot to talk about when you come back. And that's the last thing I remember until the image with the sunshine. Now, another important thing, at least to me, as I'm reciting the Lord's Prayer, for the first time in this whole equation, I let go. I give in, and I'm prepared to be taken or be done or whatever God has in mind for me. But I am completely, in all sincerity from the heart, ready. No judgment, no thought, just I'm here. And I tend to think by having the ability to let go, and I've heard some people on this trip use the term, is this still on? Yes. I've heard some people use the term surrender just while I've been here. But I've never used that term before. But I've heard a lot of you use the term surrender while I've been here. So in a way, I surrender. And I feel that by surrendering, I feel I accepted the universe. I accepted that things are just going to be however they're going to be. And so the next thing I know, I wake up in the bed in the sunshine. And so my wife's crying, and there's another woman I know there, and she's saying, oh my God, you're awake. And so now I'm back in this plane of existence, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm awake, what's the big deal? And then one of the doctors walks in. This is not his name, but I'm going to say Dr. Lee. And I say, hey, Dr. Lee. And he says, we haven't met. I say, oh yeah, you've been talking to me for a while now. He says, no, we haven't met. He's not that interested in listening to me. He says, listen, it doesn't make any sense to us that you're here. You shouldn't be here. He says, but you are here, so we're happy for you. And he walks out. So now,
$1 million bill.
2.7 million.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Anyway, that's not a story worth telling. Anyway, so now I'm back in the human plane, right, or whatever. So I go from, I'm moving around in space, so to speak, to now I go to stand up. I cannot stand up. I can't walk. I go to stand up, and I guess there's an orderly there because he catches me. I have zero ability to walk. I can't talk. I can mumble, but I can't talk. I can't see. My sight is like you're standing in a shower and the glass is fogged. That's my sight. So they wheel me off to rehab, or whatever it's called. They don't call it rehab, whatever they call it. Recovery. And they say I'm going to be there for 6 weeks. But somehow I managed to relearn how to walk in 3 days. So that's good. I can walk again. And my voice comes back. And my sight comes back after about 2 days. So, and then they give me a bunch of tests. Anyway, I'm back in this world, this plane of existence. I'm back here. And then it took a while to it took me about another 8 months to fully recover, because when they're in chopping up the brain, the neurons get disconnected. So it takes a while for the neurons to grow back. It takes a long time for the neurons to grow back together. So I'm a little, dense for a while. But eventually I come back. At least I think I came back. I think I'm here. I'm somewhere. So that's my story. So here's what I learned from it. Here's my observations. And what I want to emphasize here is these are my observations then, at that time. These are not my observations today. Well, actually they are. They're still my observations. But my observations didn't start as a result to coming to Robert's wonderful programs. This is what instinctively just happened to me at the time, which is 10 years ago. So, and there's just a handful of things that happened to me. I don't get to talk to dead people now or anything like that. I don't have any of those things going on. What happened to me is I became intensely aware of sentient beings around me. I became aware that everything is alive and that we are all one. I became particularly aware of animals. I now feel as though I can communicate with animals. That doesn't mean they talk to me or I talk to them. It means I just know what they're thinking. And so I find myself, to this day, doing a lot of things I didn't used to do. So I'll see an animal and I'll go up to the animal and I'll get a sense of what the animal's thinking or feeling. And if I'm feeling the animal is in distress, I'll try to help the animal. I now get upset if you're sitting somewhere and somebody smashes a bug, I get upset about it. I don't voice my being upset, but it just really bothers me that they have put out the life.
Including mosquitoes.
Any kind of animal. Yeah. Whatever happens to me happens to me. Anything on the planet. I have a sense, and again, I recognize I'm saying things that a lot of you say, yeah, of course, I know that. But for me, this is new, right? I'm aware that trees are alive. I go up many times and I'll put my hand on a tree and listen to the tree. But I don't really have a sense. I believe plants are alive. I believe everything's alive. But I don't, in fairness, I don't have a sense of the plants. I have the sense of the animals and the trees. And I have a sense that all people are connected, all people are one. So I have that sense. Second, I have an entirely different perception of time. I now have a sense, which again, I'm going to say this out loud, and you're going to say, "Well, yeah, of course." But I have a distinct feeling. We're just here for a very short amount of time, very, very short, like a flicker, compared to everything else. And I have a sense that there's lots of everything else. So when I think about life now, on a daily basis, I think. I try not to, I don't dwell on this, but to the extent I do think about it, I think we're just here a little bit longer. It's, this is very temporary. This is just an experience that I'm having that I don't necessarily extend it to everybody else. I think about myself. I think this is just an experience I'm having. And so I find myself thinking, well, there's not that much time left, and so the derivative of that is nothing really matters. You know, there's no reason to, again, just for me, I'm not preaching, I'm saying for me, there's a sense that there's no point in getting upset about things. It doesn't matter at all. Not at all. Nothing. Whatever happens. Doesn't matter. You get shot, you get kidnapped, you get in a car wreck, it doesn't matter. It's just what's happening. So the derivative of that is I don't worry about anything. I don't worry about a single thing. It just all happens. And I figure, again, pre all of this, I feel the universe takes care of it. Whatever's going to happen, happens. I'm not in control. It's just going to happen. And then the next derivatives of that are, again, I'm not yet at the Robert Grant seminars. I'm thinking all that really matters is kindness and love. That's all that really matters. To the extent anything matters, that's what matters. We're here to exhibit kindness and love. We're here to embrace love. We're here to live love. And the further derivative of that is I'm now able to live in the moment. I used to continuously live in the future. My whole existence was, oh, what do I have to do tomorrow, and where am I going next month, and oh, how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that, and I can hardly wait till I get that new whatever. That is all gone. I am just living in the moment. And that's wonderful because I'm able to appreciate the moment. I'm able to look out the window and I'm able to think, look at that beautiful water. Look at those beautiful ferns along the bank of the river. And I'm able to be in that moment, which is a great thing. I mean, it's great for me because that's what occupies my attention. And then I got a sense of the necessity of balance. And this is a little harder for me to articulate, but I got the sense that everything needs to be in balance, that I need to not emphasize certain things over certain other things. I need to just be in harmony. I think that's the best way to say it. I need to be harmonious. I need to be in my spot. I need to be embracing what's around me. And the final thing I got, which I'll say is, I have this innate sense that I got brought back for some purpose, some reason. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know what that purpose is. But I know I'm back, and I feel instinctively that it's not just for the sake of being back, that there's some purpose in me being back. Now, I have not experienced that aha moment where I say, this is why I'm back. That hasn't happened thus far. Maybe it'll never happen. I don't know. I'm just here. But it hasn't changed how I process my life, but it's changed the filter through which I view life. So I'm viewing everything from a different dimension, if you will. But beyond that, I don't have any special gifts. I can't raise buildings or, I'm just me. But I will say this, I feel physically, for whatever reason, I feel better than I've ever felt. I don't feel any different now, I'm going to say, than I did when I was 40 or 30. I have not a single ache or pain. I have nothing. I have nothing. I'm just here. I know I'm not young, but I don't feel old. I'm just here. And I don't feel like anything's changing. I feel like I'm in this condition and this is just it. Now maybe that won't be true. Maybe in 5 minutes I'll fall over on the floor and you'll say, oh, thanks, Phil. Nice knowing you. But for now, none of that's happening. So that's my story. I appreciate you listening to it. I apologize if it was too long. But thank you. So, where's Lori? Lori, do I have another 5 or?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking maybe do some Q&A.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, Q&A. So Lori's my first Q&A companion. So Lori, what would you like to ask me? Lori's an expert in NDE.
Not an expert in NDE, but I have watched, listened to, and read about 2,500 of these. I have a YouTube channel. I've interviewed about 200 people who have had these experiences. One of the observations I have is that you said, I don't have very many gifts. I will say that every single person that I've ever interviewed has some special ability afterwards, and a lot of times it's psychic. But you have some abilities I haven't necessarily heard before, so it's very unusual that somebody is connected this way to animals and they can read the thoughts of those. That's a little bit more unusual. A lot of people do connect to trees, but my favorite thing that you said is that you now feel everything has a sentience to it. Probably rocks.
Everything.
And that you can't kill anything anymore. Which
Not
is
a thing.
Just like that's such an evolved state to be in. So I think you have more gifts than most people that I've talked to.
Thank you.
I will say that too.
Thank you. I don't get to go fishing anymore.
I know.
I catch the fish.
Even releasing
I
them.
apologize to the fish. Literally.
Yeah.
I say I'm so sorry. And I get the hook out as gently as I can, and I make sure the fish can breathe again back in the, unless it's a shark or something, then I'm a little more. But yeah.
I love that. Okay, so the question I have for you is really, this is a different audience than I'm normally dealing with, because most people are trying to find evidence that these things are real. And I know that everybody in here probably already agrees that that's real. But what I'd like you to share and elaborate on is that you mentioned you had at least 50 people that you had interactions with during your coma. You also had Dr. Michael, who you felt moving the arms, and you heard him. I don't know if he was speaking to you or if it was telepathically. So were you able afterwards to get some confidential evidential information?
Yeah.
And will you share some of that information, because this helps anybody that has any doubt, because once somebody has an experience like this, you could say, oh, it was a dream. It was a very vivid dream, because some of these things sound dreamlike. But when you say, I was able to find out that this person was thinking this, or that your children are now close, and I'm sure it's 10 years, they've probably watched that progression. But share some of those things so that people can understand evidentially how you were able to integrate this and confirm.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Lori. I'm glad you mentioned that for me. So I don't have any proof the elephants happened, right? I mean, I'm just telling you I saw the elephants. But with the people, when I'm in my coma and I'm in my bed, so I've in my mind, I've come back in some form. I haven't come 100% back, but in some form I'm back. So with each of the 50 or so people, I went to them and I said, hey, thanks for visiting me. I really appreciate it. And I said, hey, here's what you were wearing when you came to visit me, because I remember what everyone was wearing. And I said, here's what you said to me. And they all to a person said, yeah, that's right. That's what I said to you. So, I guess at some level that's proof. I don't know. Maybe it's not perfect proof, but I had confirmation, if you will, because that was one of the first things I wanted to kind of check for myself. Just, did these things actually happen, or was it my imagination? But at that level, all those things happen. And even the doctor who's trying to, whatever he's trying to do, resuscitate me, I asked him, and he said, yeah, that's what I said. I said, it doesn't make sense that you're here. You were just here 8 months ago. And so I'm not sure that fully answers your question, but no, I have confirmation from all those various people. And some, it's interesting, because some of them I tell them, and then they kind of like, oh no, this must be some parlor trick. You had a camera in the room or something. You have no way of knowing what I said, and they kind of just dismiss it. But others are a little more taken aback by it. But anyway, that's true. So, yes, sir, Willie.
Did you change your diet since?
I did.
So how so?
Yeah.
And if you now became a vegetarian, I would say?
I didn't. I should, but I didn't.
And how you feel about consuming what you're consuming?
Thank you. So I used to eat like a pig. I would, if it's 12 midnight, it's time for a pizza. and I would eat anything and everything. And so back then, not now, back then, I'm going to say to your point, Willie, I'm going to say I instinctively, I gave up red meat. I'll still eat. I'm not religious about this, no pun intended. But I mean, if there's only meat to eat, I'll eat it. But generally, I gave up red meat. I stopped drinking alcohol. Although, again, like we're on this boat, I'll have a cocktail. But I don't, drink like a fish or anything. And a month can go by, and I might have one drink. And if I do have a drink, it's for social reasons. It's not because I'm interested in having the drink. I gave up ice cream. Now, the reason I gave up ice cream is I was kind of like Joe Biden. Every day was ice cream day. I always had an ice cream cone. And I love ice cream. But I don't miss those things anymore. I'm probably best on the alcohol and the ice cream. No, I'm best on the meat and the alcohol. The ice cream's a little tougher. So I gave up those things. Before the term became popular, I started intermittently fasting. Meaning I didn't feel a need to eat. So I got into a mode where I never ate before about noon or 1 p.m. each day, and I don't have very much. I mean, I'm not starving myself or anything. I'm not doing this to make a statement or anything. It's just I don't feel a need to eat that much. And in the evening, I'll eat less than I used to eat. And I don't know. Has that improved me? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know if it's improved me or not. Other than what I said earlier, which is I feel great, and I don't have any inflammation in my system. My inflammation level is like 0.01, if you know anything about inflammation. But anyway, so I'm good. Yes, sir, John.
Are you retired?
No.
So you're active in your business?
I'm active. So I'm so happy you asked that question. So because I forgot all about this. So when I came out of, back or whatever, my instinct was I should keep working because to not work would be selfish. Because to the extent I can earn money, worst case I can give it to others. And that's pretty much what I do today with money that I make. I pretty much, I've got kind of my priorities. I freely give it to my children. If anybody's in need, I give them money, and so forth. That wasn't what you were asking?
You're active in your business.
Yeah.
How do you live in a situation where nothing matters? How do you live in a situation where you don't think about things?
Oh, thank you. Because I'm hoping I was always like this, but today I'm always interested in doing what's best for the people I'm working with.
Yeah, but there's time constraints, right? Deadlines, things like that,
I meet the deadlines. I mean, it's just that simple. If somebody says, "Hey, I got to have this by next week or whatever," I say, "Okay, no problem, I'll do it." Yeah, I don't worry about it. I get it. I don't believe I fail. In fact, I'm pretty sure I haven't failed any time in recent memory. If something needs to be done, I do it, and I do so freely. I don't say, "Oh, wow, I wish I didn't have to fly to Cleveland or whatever." Hope nobody's from Cleveland. Yes.
Could you share about the handlers?
Yeah.
Were they energy or?
The handlers looked like people. They were about Robert's height. They weren't as good looking as Robert, but they were about Robert's height. They seemed very normal, I'm going to call it. They were, so maybe it's, I don't know, what do I know? Maybe it's me projecting what I wanted my handlers to be like, I don't know. But they were normal, they were humans. They seemed almost like coaches in sports. They were, they were just like, here's how it is, I'm not interested in what you think, here's how it is. This is what we're going to do. They were entirely non-threatening. I felt like they were there for me, not in competition to me in some way. And they were very helpful. What else would you like to know?
That answered my question.
Okay. Yes, Russ.
Elaborate a little bit on that, Phil.
Yeah.
Did you feel that your will is going to drive the entire process? Where are you going to stay? Are you going to come back? or you felt that it's pretty much decided and they just gotta decide between themselves talking? How was that feeling to you?
Say that again. I'm not understanding the question.
Did you feel that your will is gonna
Your
drive
willpower,
the decision?
your will.
My willpower.
Yeah, if you
Oh.
stay in this room, come back, or come back again.
I think a little bit. I felt like I'm not going to accept what I'm not going to accept.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't get the vote.
So
Yeah, I didn't get in the boat. Yeah. Now, obviously, did I really have that power? I'm going to say no, but I perceived I had. I'm not even sure I perceived I had the power. It's just what I was going to be.
What you intended.
Now, if I had gone on to wherever on is, maybe all that would have changed, right? I don't. What do I know? I don't know. You know, maybe I'd be a ghost on the planet, wishing I was still here or something. I don't know. How come, Marv? Yeah.
So when you were in coma,
Yeah.
were you able to perceive the energy of your family, your beloved ones, the energy?
Yes. Yeah. I think love. Oh, the question. What here? You want to restate your question just so everybody
So
can
when
hear?
you were in coma, were you able to have you have a memory of the energy of your family or your beloved ones at the moment, like healing you too?
Thank you. I wouldn't say I had a feeling that they were healing me. I would say I had an entire feeling of love and support, and I feel like I was, in some subtle way, getting energy from that love. Marv?
I was just wondering if you have any experience with psychedelic journeys, and if
No, I don't do psilocybin, or I don't. No.
the second part was going to be hard to compare the two, but
What?
I'll ask you in a few years. Maybe a few months. How you compare them?
Or maybe tomorrow.
In fairness, I've been told, and I don't think I'm going to violate this. I've been told by the doctors you shouldn't do any drugs. You shouldn't drink too much. I really didn't like that one, but anyway. Yes.
When you saw those beings, those elephants and humanoids in the room, did you sense any communication from them? Were they trying to tell you something? And if any, what do you think was their purpose in?
Thank you. Okay, so the question was, did you sense communication with the beings in the room? What I felt was the room was like a way station. I felt like everybody was there transitioning to someplace else. That's what I felt. I didn't get any communication from them. It was almost like you're at a train station and there's a bunch of strangers. They're not there to talk to you. You might walk by them, but they're not there to talk to you. So no, I didn't get anything from them, but I did get a strong sense they were intelligent in the sense of how we think of intelligence. Yes, sir.
Was there any feeling of sadness or loss while you were there?
No sadness or loss. I felt, at worst, I felt neutral. I did not feel threatened by the experience. I did not feel, in mourning about none of that.
No realization like, damn, I think I might be dead.
I did have that, but it was a matter-of-fact conclusion. It wasn't, oh my God, I'm dead. Oh no. It was just, I'm dead. Yes?
You said it looked like the King's Chamber and you hadn't been there yet. So what was your experience like when you actually went to the King's Chamber?
When I finally did go to the King's Chamber, which was several years later, not knowing I'd ever go to the King's Chamber, right? I mean, who gets to go to the King's Chamber? That's crazy in and of itself. But when I did get there, it was kind of like, oh wow, this is kind of like where I went. But I didn't dwell on it. It wasn't like, oh my God. It was just like, yeah, this kind of looks like where I was. So I'm not claiming I was in the King's Chamber. I was just giving you a reference point to say that's what it looked like.
And let me just comment on that. It's interesting, Phil, because you told me about this. I think it was like when we had dinner that
Like
time.
2015, 20, yeah.
I wasn't.
You weren't even in this stuff.
I'd never been to the King's Chamber at that point. And what he described to me, because we were in a big cubic-shaped room at Mastro's that was all black on the walls, and I just started noticing, I'm like, oh, because I was noticing alpha omegas then. And of course, the Mastro's logo is a bull embedded with this upside down omega.
Yeah.
In this black room, right? That's like cubic shaped. And he said, yeah, he goes, it was kind of like a room like this. It was like, you know, dark walls, but, you know, linear lines and everything. And now it's so funny because I remember you saying that, and I remember thinking, oh, it's like cubic space-time or something. And then it does match the description of the King's Chamber.
Yeah.
Kind of wild.
Yeah.
That is really wild.
Yeah, and I didn't go to the King's Chamber till 2020.
Wow.
So, and I never thought I'd go to the King. I mean, who even, you know, I mean, that's crazy. So,
well, the other thing, for those of you that were in Peru with us, we had a major theme in Peru of all of our discovery, right? What was the major theme? Elephants. They put elephants in our rooms and our beds. That's right. I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so there's a little magic there.
I saw elephants in all of the mountains at the tombs yesterday. I'll show it to you. It was all elephant trunks. The king's tomb.
This is wild. Okay, so that was like a massive shing just now. Wow. Okay, so but this is how it is, right? You're going to start noticing probably elephants everywhere. It's going to start showing up everywhere. It's definitely a theme. This is the theme of the Hierophant. And what's interesting is that when I got back from Peru, right? Remember, we're in Peru, and we went to that place at Chincheru. I showed you the pictures. And while we were there, on the way there, I was literally studying on my iPhone elephants, the symbology of elephants, because the day before we had been at this place that had this wall, and it had elephants all along the base of the wall, and there was a kundalini that was going up to the top of the wall, and it was a full staff of Hermes on the wall. And we saw elephants, well, dragons on the lowest level, then a different type of dragon on the next level, then another elephant, right? And the hippopotamus and elephant were next to each other. You guys remember this, for those of you that were in Peru. And then it went up to a jaguar, right, which was up by where the pineal gland is. And it goes up to the top, and the two snakes basically meet up at the top. And no one had ever seen this before on the wall because they just ignored it. Kind of like all the walls in the King's Chamber, same thing. But as soon as we saw the elephants, I was triggered by them. Like, why so many elephants? And then I started looking up on my iPhone on the way to the next place we went to, which I had no idea had any association with elephants. It's not known to have association with elephants. And that's when we got out. It was raining, and they gave us rainbow ponchos, right? And we're all like walking around in these rainbow ponchos. It looked pretty funny. And as soon as I walk up, and I was one of the last ones to walk up because I was dealing with some stuff, you know, related to the tour. And as soon as I walk up, everyone's like, Robert, look, it's all elephants. And who remembers that? It was like crazy, right? It's like so insane. And I'd literally been talking about it on the drive up too. It's like, yeah, I'm like, elephants, Hierophant, we saw that yesterday. It's like in my consciousness. We get there and we find more than 100 carved elephants in stone that nobody had ever seen before. And now all of a sudden, the tour guides, who are archaeologists as well, they're like, it's elephants. It's like a veil had been lifted. And I can tell you that in 2020, the same thing happened. You might remember this, Phil, when we came to Egypt, and this is when I was just starting to get the decryptions of Leonardo da Vinci, and I put a picture of the Last Supper painting up. And I don't know what it was, but we like passed through something. We put it up, and no one could see anything special in it. And then all of a sudden, it's like we passed through some veil, and everyone started standing up saying, oh my gosh, there's something new on there. Oh my gosh, there's something new on there. And like, we discovered like 50 things on the Last Supper painting that are completely new, never been seen before. It's like it almost became like a Mandela effect. Like there were H9s all over it. There's REG written up at the top of, you know, two places. You've got, you know, the holding the knife, you know, Mary Magdalene holding the knife, and then Peter holding her wrist with his other hand down her blouse. I mean, all of a sudden, there's a lantern up there. All this stuff started popping out that nobody saw before, and it was some massive conscious expansion, and literally every person in the room started seeing. Remember that?
I do.
It was crazy.
I
We
do
actually
remember that.
Go back and watch it on film because we did capture it all on film.
Yep.
And when it happened, and it was just like everyone went, "Whoa!" Like my eyes were closed and now they're open. And that was wild. So it was the same thing when we went up to Chincheru, which is the house of Orion, Viracocha. And if you haven't watched Ancient Apocalypse, go watch that with Graham Hancock, because he puts forward the thesis that Orion is just the connection of all of these mythologies, all of them, right? From Viracocha in Peru to Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan and the Yucatan Peninsula and Odin and Osiris. And Osiris wasn't from Egypt. Osiris was the great bull from the west. That's the actual name. He comes from a land from the far, far west across the ocean. So there's this whole story that's basically commingling with us. When we get to this place, it's full of elephants, and they're carved in granite, and they're thrones. They're literally seats with elephants carved all through them. And then we're like, okay, we get to the next place. We're like, what are the elephants here? And we go on the back side, and the whole thing is a giant carved elephant. It's a massive throne. And then we go and look at the mountain next to us, and the mountain's carved like elephants, right? I mean, what? And you could go in and tone inside the vocal cords of the elephant. And how everyone missed this is like mind-boggling. Now you look at it, it's like, what? And even the tour guides were like, what? This is crazy. And the mountains themselves, the entire mountain was carved like elephants. We're in a matrix. What a trip. What is on the outside of us is mirroring what's on the inside of us. The baby falcons yesterday. Start taking notice of these subtle things. We're getting our baby falcon going right now, of our third eye. These representations, that's why Egypt's so powerful, because all the symbology is there, right? And it's telling us something about the healing within us. It's so freaking beautiful. And then, so I went to Ibiza, and while we were in Ibiza, Eden and I walk into this shop, and what do we see? First thing we see, 2 thrones, Indian thrones, that are elephant thrones. Literally 2 elephant thrones. I took pictures of it. I was like, what the I mean, how could this be? Like, we just roll into some random shop, and the whole center thesis of the shop was 2 elephant thrones. 1 male and 1 female. Okay. So the significance of this elephant is where we are. That's representing our stage of consciousness now. The way we start to realize our divinity is when we realize that we are no one. This is what I would call omni-solipsism. Are you familiar with what solipsism is? Solipsism is you're in your own universe and there's nobody else there. Okay? Omni-solipsism implies what? And I actually coined that term. Implies that there's many that are in their own universes. And they're all interacting. But you're the only one in your universe. You're the only one in your universe. Let me repeat that. You are the only one in your universe. And every one of us has our own universe. Every single one of us has our own universe. And every single other person in that universe that you live in, that you think you're separate from, are just projections of your mind. You're in your own dream. We're all in our own dreams. Okay, so when you're in a dream, you're the actor, right? You're the main character in the dream. Who's the director of the dream?
Me. So.
Who wrote the dream?
Me.
You wrote the dream, right? So you're the actor in that dream. So somehow there's an aspect of you that's been limited to only understand certain aspects, because you don't know what's going to come in the dream next. But it's actually you, still you, in a higher capacity that has made the dream. You're making it continually. Who are the other people in the dream? You. So there's other people that show up in the dreams. Someone walks up to me and, oh, I saw you in a dream last night. Well, is it really them? Who made the dream? Where's the dream emanating from? You. You see how this is actually just what we're living? No one is separate from you. You're creating the dream. It's your dream. It's our own omnisolipsism. It's your universe. So you can control it. You do already control it. And then when you start to lucid dream, that's when you can figure out how to control it. You're connecting through the subconscious. And so how does the subconscious talk to us? It sends us numbers. It sends us numbers. How many of you get number synchronicities all the time? And then you're like, ooh, oh, I say something, it's 11:11. That must be true. These messages come, or you go back to your room on the day we're talking about elephants, and they do elephants, and no one talked to them about doing elephants. It's not like I could go and plan that. Okay, today we're going to do a man laying back like this. Tomorrow is elephant day, so like fold elephants for everyone out of the towels. There's just no way. This is the invisible hand of you. Yes?
I feel that we all do live within our own universe, and our own solar universe overlaps with your universe and your universe, and that's how you make that Metatron cube. And the entanglement that you do feel when you're thinking of someone and they're across the world, you're in the US right now, you're in the South, or whomever, you're actually able to activate that.
Yeah, because...
So you're within that cube, and that's what the whole universe is.
Because there's no distance. In a dream, what's the distance? You haven't gone anywhere. You've created an expansive world. You could have planets and everything. And as your dream gets more elaborate, more complex, you're just moving into higher consciousness. New characters come in, people with elephant heads.
And bodies.
You know, so-called intraterrestrials or extraterrestrial beings. It's just an expansion of the next level of consciousness. You're in your own dream. So, a lot of people have a hard time because they'll think, I can see how this world around me is beautiful, and I can see how everything is divine. And I can even see how the food I eat and everything is so blessed, and there's God through all of it. And I can see how the world is God. The whole universe is God except me. Maybe I get the idea that I have some God in me, but I know my bad aspects. I know that I'm imperfect. I know that I do all kinds of bad shit. So I can't possibly be God. And for anyone who thinks that they are God, that's egoic. Let me tell you, if you believe that the whole world around you is God, and everyone else in it is representing God to you, and you're the only thing that's not God, that is egoic. That's egoic. Now, in my dream, we're all here together. You guys are beautiful, all of you. I'm so thrilled to get to know you as much as I possibly can. But I'm not anyone's guru. And I am too. I am nothing, and I'm everything. I'm no one, and I'm everyone. At this interchange, this mirror of consciousness between those two edges of extremes on both sides, everything loops into itself. You go far left in politics, you'll end up on the far right, because it's not a linear line. You know, people that go super left to communism always pop out in fascism somehow. Every fascist dictator ever became a fascist dictator started off as a social populist, running on social principles, social democracy, because that's the mask, right? Communism And collectivism is the mask of fascism. We all wear this mask. The mask of no one is the concept of everyone. This interchange in this milieu between the two is this place of a black hole and a white hole, and how we perceive ourselves. The word guru, does anyone know what it actually means? Gu means what? Darkness. Ru means light. Guru is light from darkness. Pretty simple. Someone who's a guru is just someone who has balanced their dark and light. The divine is the ability to balance the dark and light and be aware of it. That's divinity. It's not someone who's all light. Again, I'm not afraid of people that have darkness. I'm only afraid of people that believe they have none. But even that, whenever I perceive that, is a reflection somehow of me. So whenever I'm triggered by someone or something, what's that really telling me?
It's a reflection of you.
It's a reflection of me. I am that. I am that. We spend our whole lives thinking, oh, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, and I don't want to be this because that gives me shame and blame and guilt and all the other things I don't want to feel. And so, but I can see it in everyone else and I can sense it in everyone else. Whatever sympathetic resonance you are carrying is what you will perceive. If you are arrogant and unknowing of it, and I'm going to trigger the shit out of you guys. I'm sorry, that's my job. In my universe, in my universe, that is my job. Donald Trump is here to trigger the shit out of everyone. Newsflash. Get over it. It's what consciousness is basically developing too. I'm not saying he's some guru or something like that, but he's going to trigger the hell out of people. It's what is meant to be. Nothing happens by accident. Nothing. And the things you complain about in others are the things that you yourself carry and you cannot see. If you spot it in someone else, that means you fucking got it. That goes for me and it goes for you. Be gentler and kinder on yourself. And that will extend to everyone else around you. When we learn to love ourselves fully, just like kindness and love, that self-acceptance is what will permeate the whole world around you. You want to change the world? Change how you see yourself. Change your perception of the world around you. That's the only way to change the world. The things that we judge, if we continue those things, we'll continue simply to attract the things that we judge until we no longer judge the things we attracted. So I want to take on a mission, and I'm sorry, newsflash for people, if you think, oh, I'm taking on something, the only thing that you've actually accomplished is creating more of the thing you were fighting against. What we resist will always persist. If you're in true humility and love, then you will perceive in any circumstance all around you true humility and love. Because your frequency is that of humility and love. The game of this life is to learn the true soul alchemy, and that is to be able to transmute any circumstance, any situation, into one of higher consciousness and greater learning. And it means you have to be standing right at that center point of balance between light and dark, the balance point between I am no one and I am everyone. It's a dream. The people inside your dreams at night are still you. That's the very best way that I could draw the analogy of explaining what we're experiencing now. You want to complain? You're only going to attract more of the thing that you're complaining about. So, you could say, oh, this is bullshit.
won't complain about this and complain about that. Guess what? You'll enjoy the same thing you've been experiencing. Only time that we start to break out of that cycle is when we finally say, I accept it, and I surrender. There is no way that I can connect with every single person here. Doesn't mean I don't love you. Doesn't mean I don't see you. Doesn't mean I don't feel you. I am an introvert. It's difficult for me to be able to go out and say it. I try. I definitely try. But there's no way I can do it with everyone. Now, if you're feeling and experiencing something, ask yourself, why am I being triggered and what am I intended to learn? And then come give me a hug. Because I'll do that all day long. Anyone who comes up to me and says, can I have a hug? You have permission to do that to me anytime. Just walk right up to me and say, can I have a hug? And I'm going to say, absolutely, please. I'm asking you to hold me. Because I need that. The person that is Robert Grant needs that. And I'm vulnerable too. The reason why we're 144 is because I was told it needed to be. Because something needed to be learned. We're all in this together. We're all one. I truly do love all of you for listening to me. And please do come give me a hug.
Can we do a group hug and just smile?
We'll do a group hug, yes, definitely. We'll do a group hug. I would love that.
I think this needs to charge a little bit. Can I have like a 40-minute hug? Just kidding.
40 minutes?
Forever hug.
90 seconds.
Not my plan. So this needs to charge a little bit. Sorry about yelling before. It was just like, yell, we're leaving. I was like, oh, what are we going to do? So this needs to charge a little bit. We're going to do a little intermission between the two talks, as well as if anyone, because Chris is going to sing a couple songs from his album that comes out today. Maria is going to help hold the mic while it's charging. But if anyone needs to use the bathroom now, while we're kind of Jojen, that would be cool, and then he's gonna do that.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. And Lori, too.